Project 571, genetically engineered vampire created to destroy evil.
What do you want?
We need your help to kill a vampire.
Malleus Maleficario. It was written by a witch. The first witch. Titania.
That was a little snippet from The Witch's Hammer, the first film I ever solo directed, and it's just been remastered and re-released on Amazon. So if you like witches and vampires, then please do check it out. Anyway, let's get on with this week's episode. Hi, Jim here, and you're listening to the Honest Filmmaker podcast. This week, I'm chatting to filmmaker Jon Hill. Hi, Jon. How you doing?
Hey, Jim. Thanks for having me, man.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, you're here to talk about filmmaking, but we're going to talk about it in relation to your feature film.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about it? What's it called? What's it about? Let's set the scene first.
Yeah, of course. So the film I wrote and directed is called Above the Clouds. It is based off a short film that I made, now 15 years ago. But it's based off the true story about this time that I met a complete stranger at a coffee shop right after my father passed away.
Right.
So I met this stranger. It was one of these magical, I like to say it's the before sunset of my life, this magical day that evolved where we learned about each other. We learned about, I learned about the things that she went through her loss at the same kind of time. And just kind of had this magical day that I remember at the time posting online, just saying like, one day this is going to be a movie, and it took me 13 years to get there, but we finally did. And it's incredible. We played all across theaters in America, and now we're available for streaming on Amazon, Tubi, YouTube, everywhere.
Where are we at this point? And how did you handle funding? Did you have to go and get the funding? Did you fund it yourself? What was the situation there?
So it's been a long journey, right? So it took me 13 years to get it going. And I tried the whole time. But what I end up doing is finding myself in this like a lot of filmmakers do, this trap, right? Where your passion becomes your burden, right? And I like telling this story because so many people are like, you have these dreams, right? I'm going to be a filmmaker. I'm going to go to film school. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. I'm going to, Hollywood's going to discover me and I'm going to be rich by, and I'm going to this man. Any day now it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was doing with my film. And I knew I wanted to do this. But then I found myself in this trap where like my wife would say, we should go on a vacation, and I would say, well, I should be working on my film. And then I wouldn't work on the film. And then now I'm sitting here with no film and no vacation. And just do that times 10 years, And you kind of look at yourself in this place where you're like, well, what am I doing? Do I really want to do this or not? And so at one point I said, and I was working in sports, but it was kind of this weird, like, well, I'm working here, but like, I don't know if you guys actually know, but I'm secretly Steven Spielberg,
Yeah.
But I'm just here with you peons until Hollywood discovers me,
Yeah.
And so I wasn't really 2 feet into my job in that world, and which was a shame because it's a great opportunity and I do love sports. So there was a moment where I literally, Jim, had to walk into the bathroom, look myself in the mirror and say, look, man, you are not a feature film director. And that's okay. Because if you really wanted this, you would get this. But like the truth is you're not ready for this. Like you do want to go have fun with, she was then my fiance at the time, like you want to enjoy your life. You want to go enjoy sports. They're paying you to go to the Super Bowl. They're paying you to go to the World Series. They're paying you to just go try really hard at that. And so that was a real reflection moment for me to say, it's okay. You don't have to, like I said, your passion doesn't have to be a burden. This doesn't have to be a burden. You're supposed to get into this, to me at least, like, I got into this to make great stuff and to tell great stories. And I love the art of it. But if you're not loving it, then what are you doing? Then you're faking it and you're just going through the numbers. So for me, and this is advice I would tell people, like if the passion's not there anymore, it's okay to walk away for a bit. And when you're ready, you'll be ready. And that's exactly what happened. I took time off from it. I said, I'm not doing this. I'm good. I started like, you know what? The being a sports producer would be great. You know, like if you told 12-year-old John, hey, sorry, you don't get to direct films, but you get to go to football games.
People would kill for that job. Yeah, it's a good job. It's a good job.
And so that's what happened. And then that's, you know, where we started winning the Emmys. We started winning the Webbies, where we really started kind of like focusing on that. And great. And then a few years of that, you start getting that itch again. You know, you start getting that, you know, one of the things that I was helping a friend shoot a short film, and then another friend was asking about it. And he said, well, who's helping you? And he goes, oh, Jon Hill's shooting it. And he goes, oh, does Jon Hill still make stuff? And I'm like, what? Like, wait, me? Like, I make stuff every day. But I was doing it in a different world. So my friends went on to make TV shows and movies and comedies and stuff. And I was, you know, schlepping around with, you know, in sports. So that was me saying like, oh, that was the reminder to me, like, hey, don't forget about your original goals too. And now that you've had some time away, you know, now you can kind of attack it with a different vision. And that's what I did. Yeah. So the next day I called my buddy, Dave Seeger, one of my favorite collaborators and friends, and said, hey, meet me on Monday. I'm making the movie. And so every week he met me. Yep. I met him in his office, and I'd bring him burritos, and he'd say, all right, what do you got? First act, go. You know, we'd sketch it out on the whiteboard. And he's like, this is great. Okay. Here's your assignments for next week. You need, you know, come back. And this was one of my favorite techniques he taught me. He says, okay, just write down 10 places they could go. Okay. Write down 10 people they could run into. Write down 10, you know, songs that inspire you. And I'd come back the next week, like, here's my list, man. And he'd be like, great. Now what's act 3? You know, and we did that for 4 weeks, and we had the outline, and he said, all right, you got 1 month to write it. Come back. And then I went, and that was the first draft. And then, you know, and then at one point we were ready to make it, and this little thing called COVID happened. And we were like, oh, great. This will be done in 2 weeks. We'll be back, you know. So in the middle of it, we had to take a 2-year pause, basically, until we felt safe enough to actually make the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's interesting, because I get that. So when I've made a feature film, on set, everyone's always like, oh, what's the next one? What are you doing next? The actors are like, oh, what are we doing next? Because they want to be in it.
That's the best part, right?
Yeah. But I do need, everyone wants to get cracking on the next one.
Yeah,
obviously,
we haven't even put the footage in the computer yet.
It's not cut together yet. And you spend a year cutting it together, get it out there. And even now, I mean, my last film came out last year, so was shot 2023, came out 2024, we're now in 2025. Even now, I'm only just starting to get that, like you say, that itch. I call it the fidgets. Get that
the fidgets. I like that.
Yeah, because I've done a couple of shorts since, and I know it will come again, but you do need to wait for that, because those fidgets, that's going to be the thing that keeps you moving and keeps you doing stuff, rather than, like you say, you don't want it to become a chore that you've got.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, your body and your mind will tell you when you're right. You know what I mean? You get that kind of that sixth sense of like, this is the thing. You know, and if you don't get that for a project, it's hard to really, like, because like you said, you know, when you're doing a feature, like, you got to give it your all.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember this was like when we were in pre-production, like a week or two before. I remember it was really stressful. People don't realize like the toll you put on yourself, especially on the independent side. You know, you don't have assistants and you know, you're wearing so many hats. I remember one time I was with my wife and I was answering emails at the gas station, you know, and I like get back in the car and she's like, John, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what? I'm sending email. You know, I was like being really rude, snappy, like, I'm sending emails. She's like, no, the gas is still in the car. Like, the handle, we were about to drive away with the handle in. I was so distracted, you know, that I couldn't even do basic functions. And I say that because I think, I remember that moment because that was me feeling like, oh my gosh, like I'm neglecting my family. Like, I'm just not even being present. But at the same time, I tell people this because it's like, that's how deep you have to get into it. That's how much you have to give to this. You have to give it your all. Yeah. And as you know, it gets exhausting. And
Yeah.
as you're just finishing it, then someone's like, "Hey, what are you doing next?" And you're like,
Yeah, what are we doing?
"Buddy,
What are we doing?
It's
Yeah.
like, what are we doing?
Yeah, not a lot for a while.
Yeah.
So is your wife involved in the actual production at all, or do you go off to do that and then return back?
So, I mean, she was, she doesn't work in the entertainment industry, but she's my number one partner in this, collaborator, executive producer, and supporter. She's the one encouraging me each step of the way. The days that were rough, the hardest days, she's the one telling me to keep going. But during the filming of it, we actually shot in my house. So she was like, you know what? I'm going to take a trip. I'm going to go, I'm going to get out of here so that you could just not have to. Because she noticed it too, you know, like, hey, maybe it's better if I just go away so you don't have to worry about me.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to watch a bunch of people in my house and get me, you know.
That's I can see how that would be stressful. We used to do that. We used to shoot in our house, but after a while you're just like, I can't.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it again. I wouldn't do it again. This was like the one and only time. So yeah.
The thing that reminds me of is a filmmaker friend shot in this lady's house. Was kind enough to let him shoot there. He set his whole scene up in her lounge, and she had this display of these antique teapots. There was about sort of like, I don't know, 30 of them on this display. And she sort of said to the crew, she's like, oh, you know, you're all welcome to it. Let's make you a cup of tea, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go upstairs and let you guys get on with it. Just please be careful of the teapots. Anyway, you know where this is going. So I think the handle of the camera hit the thing, the whole lot smashed. And he said the worst moment of his life was those 15 seconds where it smashed, everything went quiet, and then he heard her walk across the out of the room and down the stairs. And it's just like, oh my God, this is awful. So yeah, shooting in people's houses can be a stress.
So crazy.
So sorry, I'm going to pin you down on this one.
Yeah,
funding. Talk to me. So did you pay? Did someone else pay? Did you just go, right, I'm going for it, I'm using my money?
I used a lot of my money. Yes.
Yeah, don't we all?
And I'm still using my money. So we did a couple things. We did a crowdfunding, a Kickstarter, and we raised about $42,000 with that.
Yep.
And then we raised about 70 in private. You know, some of that being, you know, me and my wife's money too. But then we probably got 5 or 6 people to give pretty big chunks of change to help that. Yeah.
Yeah. And where was the film shot?
It was shot in Los Angeles. Like literally in my neighborhood of what we call the east side of LA. It's kind of it used to be the hipster kind of part of LA where cheap young artists used to move, but now it's being gentrified.
Oh, lovely.
So one of the things I wanted to do is, you know, kind of capture this moment of, you know, Highland Park, Mount Washington area, which is probably gonna, you know, be an Apple store soon. So
well, your house price might go up, I'm assuming, if that's what's going to happen.
Well, for my landlord, good for them.
Oh no! I don't want to hear
that. Good for them. Good job, landlord. I'm so proud of you. I'm happy.
Well done.
Great job.
Oh
Great
God.
job.
Oh, so then that's interesting to me. So I looked. So looking at the film, looks super high quality.
Yeah.
Looks like something you'd see. And I did think, oh, that's got to be LA. But then I was like, oh, is it super expensive? I've never shot film over there. Is it even more because it's in that particular place? Or
so I would say, like, my neighborhood, not so much. It's still, like I said, it's going to be very expensive. It's not quite as expensive. We've since moved to closer to the beach area, where that.
I mean, the costs of filming there, like equipment in LA, all of that stuff. Is that more expensive? Do you think?
I would say, well, yes and no. I think in general, yes, right? Because you know, just the cost of living in LA. I understand why production would not want to shoot here. You have high film permits, things like that. Just the cost of living it's an expensive city, right? Like, you know, London's going to be expensive more so than, you know, out in the Cotswolds, you know? But like food's expensive, all those things are expensive. But what we had advantage of is the resources of people and talent, you know, like, because I have friends that could work for me at a very discounted, generous rate. because I lived in the neighborhood, I could walk to all the local stores and just say, hey man, like I'm broke. I'm trying to make this movie. I live in the neighborhood. We have a scene in a a little shop. Anything we can do, and they give you a really great rate. And then just being able to have access to cameras through friends and stuff. So I think for us, it helps save money because no hotels for actors. You know what I mean? Like things like that. Also, too, like one person did unfortunately get COVID before we casted them. But in LA, you're able to scramble and call a friend who's an actor and be like, hey, is there, things like extras are easy. I'm not paying for extras. I have a bunch of friends that can come fill in, So, So for us, yes, I think it was a good advantage because of the connections we had. But in general, LA's pretty expensive, man. Like if I was, a movie, it's tough, but.
Because the thing is, I guess you've got the sort of beauty of the location, which is sort of where that money's going.
Yeah.
Because to me, if I look at your film, I'm like, there's a cheap version of that, which doesn't look as nice in not as nice a place, but that's a bit more guerrilla style. But I don't think you'd get the same kind of look and feel to it. So what I was going to ask you about was, so you've got the funding, you've got the film shot. I'm skipping over the shoot for now.
Let's do it.
Talk to me about first of all, festivals. So you've had a good festival run with it.
Yeah, we did.
What was did you have a strategy? Did you have festivals in mind? Had you already sounded them out, or did you just shoot it out to different ones? Tell me about that.
So our festival strategy. Okay. So obviously you always aim big, right? You have to do your big ones, your Sundances, your South, like, the shot is almost zil, but the reward is so high. You just have to try, you call every connection that, of someone who works there or knew or who had a film there, you try everything, you do your best shot and you don't get in. And you kind of just work your way backwards. The crazy part was, at the time that all this was happening, right? So we're rushing to make the Sundance cut. We're rushing to get these things out there, And at the time, I had to go live in Qatar for the World Cup.
Right.
So now, no disrespect to Qatar, was a very challenging time, but. And plus, I'm working the World Cup. I'm going. I'm just going. Like, I have work to do. I found myself quite bored at times, and you're sitting around, and you're like, "Oh well, Film Freeway's here." So I think I
spend a bit of money, shall I? That'll give you something to do.
The one thing about living on the road, though, for work is like, they pay for your stuff, so you actually kind of save money because you don't have to pay for your own food. You're not, those kind of, you're not, so you kind of find yourself like, oh, well, I probably have a little more money than I'm used to. So I love it. Oh, this festival looks good. This festival looks good. Like kind of, I think that was like some, what they call retail therapy, like people will go online and buy. And I think, to be honest, I think I did that with the festivals. And looking back, knowing what I know now, I do wish, and I would recommend this to be a little more, I would have researched a lot of these festivals more, and seen which ones are real. There might be someone who owns 3 festivals, and you're like, why did I apply to all 3? Because if I get into one, it's the same person who either likes my movie or not. Yeah. So great. So I got into one, and I just wasted money on the 2 other festivals that they're not going to put me in because they've already used me in the one festival. Things like that. I did a lot of, again, retail therapy, like just pick places I wanted to go. Like I applied to way too many in Spain and Italy because I just wanted an excuse to go to Spain. I did a lot of that. So I think, yes, looking back, I think to other filmmakers, what I would definitely do is have more of a strategy. I would definitely do more time figuring out exactly where you fit and writing, probably reaching out to them, and just communicating and reaching out to people and be like, hey, do I even fit? Is this something that would matter? And try to, like in life, it's all connections, right? So instead of just cold submitting like, hey, I'm a film, blah, 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 no one knows me. I would approach that differently. Yeah. But Yeah, but sometimes you're in Qatar just with the credit card, and you're just hitting.
You're eating your dinner on expenses.
Oh
You
yeah,
think, I've just saved $30. God,
exactly.
why not?
Like,
Take a punt.
It's an early bird special. It's only $80, and you're just like, yeah. We did target a lot of, and I will say this, we did target a lot of the Asian American festivals, the films that specialize in. So I'm Thai American, and the film is based on the Asian American experience, and I found that those were not only the ones that really understood our movie, but the communities around it and the festivals themselves were great. Yeah, because some festivals, are fun because we had a couple of festivals that the festival itself wasn't great, but it put us in a great movie theater. Yeah. Our premiere was at a Regal. We premiered, and I was like, this is where I saw Black Panther, like literally the same theater. Yeah. And so that's the coolest experience ever, because it's a giant movie theater. But some of but the community might not be there, or they might not quite care, or some of these places like, oh, you want to go to the award show? $40, you want this $40, and you're like, okay, cool. I found that the ones that were very niche for our film, which was the Asian American ones, and maybe I've heard this is like Horror Fest are really good for horror films. The community's great, the people you meet are great, and I think going back, those are the ones that really I think I got the most out of.
Yeah, and just for other filmmakers who are in that festival zone, to make them feel better about these late night purchases, what's the percentage, would you say, of how many you entered to how many you actually got into?
I'd have to relook at the numbers, but I do remember it being pretty high. I think we were somewhere from like 16 to 20%.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah,
that's really, and from my understanding is it's like usually way less, and like I said, that was me kind of overshooting, I was kind of going, I was like, I just want this movie out there kind of thing. Yeah. So I kind of went overboard, but we had a pretty decent success rate. And I think if we had, like I said, kind of did a little, here's one thing that made me mad. I'm going to talk about it. The festivals that don't tell you there's no screening. We did that.
That's pretty bad. Yeah.
Where you're like, you look back and you're like, or like I got nominated for an award and you go and you're like, oh wait, there's actually no screening. And I'm like, oh, well, this is point. Like, no one's seeing this movie. Like, this is just the pat yourself on the back award. Cool. I get it. But like, that's one thing I would definitely, for filmmakers to be on the lookout for. Like, laurels are cool. All that stuff's fun. And I get it. It feels great. But the real benefit, like, you get into this to see your movie on a big screen. Make sure the festival allows that. And
yeah, I think I definitely need to do another video about film festivals, maybe a strategy video, things to think about before you actually enter, because there's so many little things like that you need to keep an eye on Film Freeway, and ways to approach a festival. So then now talk to me about sales and distribution. So how did you handle that? Who did you go with? How did you do it?
So we, and that's another thing too. Like, I wish I learned so much more now than I did, and I think definitely to filmmakers, you definitely try to have a good plan going into it. Like I definitely was behind on researching distributors and what to do with it. And you need to know that all before going into it, or assign someone on your team to do that. And again, just getting on people's radar, making that connection now to say, like, not at the end where you're like, hey, by the way, hey, nice to meet you. I'm John. I have this movie. Do you want to distribute it? It's like, start early. Like, hey, I just want to introduce myself. I'm a filmmaker. I'm making this film. Like, let's talk in 3 months. Let's talk in 6 months. Like, let's just be a part of the conversation earlier. And then talk to your other friends who have done similar distribution, who have done this path, so that, again, you can build this network up of people. So you're not just kind of at the end being like, oh, I have this film. What do I do with it? Which is, look, that's the sad reality of it. Like you said earlier, like you spend so much time pulling off this miracle just to make the film. And it's like, the work hasn't even started yet. You know, like the real work is on the other end. So one of my producers, Dan Reeser, is also a feature film director. And he had connected us up, and he had kind of helped a lot, and we were struggling. And then we found one place that they wanted us, but then it just didn't work. I just felt, that's the other thing. You have to really go with your gut. Like, because the truth is, unless you have a lot of money and stars, you know, the biggest places aren't coming, unfortunately. You know, and if we're looking at the scale of independent film, right? Like, I think sometimes people hear independent film and they're like, oh, it's guys like me, right? $100,000. And it's like, no, some of these independent films are $6 million. And the producers actually have been working at these bigger companies before. You know what I mean? They're not, it's not quite as independent as we like to pretend it is. So if you're not at that level, you know, a lot of what you're doing is like the streaming stuff, you know. So we were able to, once we kind of didn't get the right vibe from the first company, you know, we basically walked away. You know, actually they ghosted us, which was good, but whatever.
Well, that's a good sign of what would potentially happen had you given them the film.
Exactly.
You could never hear from them again. So it's a good move.
And look, I've always been in the belief that the artist should retain as much of their rights as possible. Like, my thing is, if I'm not going to get paid a lot, like, I need to sell out. But to sell out, like, I need money. Like, I will sell out for money. I'm not going to sell out for nothing, you know? So I had a couple of friends told me some nightmare scenarios where they're signing these distribution deals for 10 years, right? And what happens? Well, if they take your film off Tubi or YouTube or whatever, or their company fails and sells to someone else, then your movie doesn't exist. And you've signed away your rights for it to exist. You know, I had someone who had signed a 10-year deal. No one could watch his movie. And then he finally, after 10 years, he gets it back. He just puts it on YouTube because, you know, the old cast and crew want to watch it, you know? So one thing that I really wanted to do was I needed a contract that was short or able to get out of, that it was like, look, I don't expect money from you guys. I don't expect a big MG. I don't expect you guys to put in any marketing really at this stage. But I need to be able to walk away from this, because who knows? Well, I want to know, what if my second film blows up? What if one of the actors blows up and it's all great now? And I'm like, oh, well, now do I still own that? Do I still own the thing that I spent 15 years on? Or have I given it away to someone who sold it to someone else, who sold to someone else, and no one can watch it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So,
The danger with that as well, I think, is anyone who wants it for a very long time, their plan is probably just to stick it on a streaming service and just leave it there and have it with this farm of other films that just kind of dribble a little bit of cash through. I mean, I've had a contract before given to me. I can't remember if they used the word infinity, but they did use the word universe. They said the film
universe,
would be in the whole universe. So,
the
damn,
universe.
I got shown on Mars.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure it was a forever contract. And it was for peanuts. It was like, we'll take your film off you. It's a USA deal, but we want it forever in the entire universe. And it just blows my mind.
Be worried of the word in perpetuity. That's where they get you forever. So so we're really happy with our deal. We signed with I just cold called people, man. I just was emailing when that first deal fell apart. I was kind of like on a mission, you know. Like I think there was one of those, we were at a place, you know, and this happens so much, man. You know, I think it was who was it? Martin Scorsese said it once, I think. Films don't get finished, they get abandoned. You know, like there's a place where you just have to go, look, we're out of post-production money. We're just done. You know, same thing with the festivals. Like, dude, we've been doing festivals for almost 2 years. Like, we're just done. You know, same thing with distribution, you know. So I think with that first deal we were looking at, we were just kind of like, like, we failed so many times. This is the offer. Like, let's just do it. Luckily, that didn't work out. And then it just became, hey, I just got to try again and call people, and this time just give it my all and just explain it, and I think that's smart, because there are, at the end of the day, they're putting these things on streamers, and you still have to find your audience. You still have to build, like, unfortunately, like, you know how it is, you go on a streamer and there's 10 billion things, and you're competing literally against Brad Pitt, like you're competing for these people's times, so you still have to build your own audience. You have to do that, but by retaining your own rights in a way, you get some freedom. I can make t-shirts. I sell, when we still own theatrical rights, so we can four-wall. We did that in Arizona, where my lead actor Chris Labadie's from. We rented a movie theater at his home state, or his hometown, got a bunch of people to go. We made our money back on the theater. I'm out there selling handmade t-shirts. Yep. I made more money on the t-shirts than I did.
I bet you did.
Yeah. And we put the soundtrack. The soundtrack is from my good friend. He's a professional producer. He's Grammy nominated, all this stuff. Nice rec. We put his album out on vinyl, and we were selling that. Yeah. And I think the independent world now is, I'm looking towards the music industry. It's no different than Spotify. Artist puts a song on Spotify, they're getting 1/1,000,000th of a penny. It's the same thing with streaming. You're not making a lot of money on that. But if I can make a t-shirt, I can make $10 off a t-shirt. Well, I would need 100,000 people to decide to go on, your Tubies or your Rokus, decide that this film is with, not the most notable stars, and decide to watch that. And I need 100,000 of them to do it. Or I find the people who love this kind of thing and then target them and try to get them to give me $10 through a t-shirt or, merchandising and things like that.
Yeah. No, that's smart. That is, it does feel like people are moving. Obviously, people still go on streaming, but people want something they can touch. They want like a live experience, or they want something physical from a film they love. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, and I think the thing too we have to remember too is, like, I think as independent people, like, we have fans, right? Like, fans are really what provide it. There's the old thing, I forgot, it was a book, I believe, or an article or a blog post, 1,000 fans. You need, and this was a long time ago, you probably need more, closer to 2,000 fans. But if you can get 1,000 people to give you, $1,000 of money over a fanship, then you can actually survive as an artist. So that's what you really want to do, is you want to find the people that love these kind of things and are willing to give you the $10, the $20, buy your Blu-ray DVD, buy your t-shirt, buy that, go to the theater and see it, support you that way, as opposed to just kind of putting it out there and hoping the world finds you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. All I was going to add to your point earlier about, and it sounds like this has sort of happened with you and it's happened with me before, is I think the danger is, if you don't do that research and send those emails out to sales and distribution, if that's the path you're going down, you don't do those either before production or during production, earlier on, then, and you do it in a staged, you go, right, now we're film festivals, now we're sales and distribution. I think that has a psychological effect and makes you a little bit more desperate, a little bit more kind of like, because your film's done, it's in a box, it's ready to go, and you're now effectively trying to flog it. Whereas, like you say, if you set those conversations up earlier, feels a little bit, takes the pressure off yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So the final question I was going to ask you was, what do you wish you knew when you started making the feature film? What's sort of the main thing you take away from it?
Ooh, what do I wish I knew? Man, there's so many things. There's really so many things. I would say this, like, when I was making the film, I said I would never do this again.
Right.
I really did. No, yeah. I'm not even joking. Like, even during making the movie, like, like I said, like, I really said to myself, like I said, I spent my life dedicated to this. I wanted to do this. And I had reached a point where I'm not sure I wanted to do this. And then I said, okay, let's come back and do it. And because it's such a personal story, you know, and if you watch the film, it is the true story of it. It is like the last scene, Chris Labadie gives this great speech, you know, about the last time he essentially, like, he plays me, you know, that I saw my father alive, and this miracle I saw in the hospital room. And it's such a personal thing for me, you know, like I never told my mom that story. I had never told my brother that story. Like, they had no idea of this thing that I had seen, you know, in the story that I tell, because I never told anyone, you know. So it was so personal to me that I was like, I have to do this movie. Like, this is the one. And after that, I never have to do this again. I never have to be in this much pain, like literally nights of laying on the floor crying by myself, you know, just being, I can't believe I'm going to waste these people's money. Like, I'm doing all these things. Like, what if it's a disaster? You know, we were still coming out of COVID. So we were always, you know, we're still wearing masks on set all day. You know, if one person gets sick, it's going to cost you $10,000 to push you know, it's really, really stressful. And the whole time I kept saying, I'm never doing this again. I'm never doing this again. And then we watched the rough cut, and, you know, I just, like, me and my wife looked at each other and we're like, oh crap, I think this is actually really good. And I was like, oh no, like, oh no. And then we worked on it, you know, and I put it together and we got the music in and everything. And I was like, oh no, man, unfortunately, I think I'm good at this. And I think it'd be a shame if I quit, you know? And, you know, our motto making the film was always one film. You know, like, look, if you told us I had $100,000 and 12 days to make 2 films, I'd tell you, Jim, I don't think I can do that, man. I don't think I can. But if you told me I have to make 1 film, and if our entire crew and cast really dedicate ourselves these next 2 weeks to really focusing on just making 1 good film, I think we can do that. Like, let's get 1 film done, you know, and then something we'll be proud of. And, you know, a lot of it was like, I didn't really have much expectations. I didn't have this like, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to get in Sundance. We're going to do this. I'm going to get a career out of it. I was like, no, I just want to make a really good movie, you know? And going into it, I kept saying, look, I don't think I can make everyone's favorite movie, right? Like, people go online. People will tell you The Godfather stinks. You know what I mean? Like, what shot do I have? But I was saying, can I make one person's favorite movie? Like, is there going to be a kid out there that lost a parent, that is lost and sad and doesn't know what to feel like, that needs a laugh? Can I make that person's movie? Can I make that mixed race Asian American person who hasn't seen themselves portrayed in a certain way, you know, a love story between Jay and Danny, and you know, Chris Labadie and Kyun Kim, this incredible actress? Can someone like relate to that, right? Because we don't see that too often, right? We have a Before Sunset. We don't have an Asian Before Sunset, you know? Can I make that person's favorite movie? Can I make my crew's favorite movie? Can I make a movie where people don't hate each other and think like, I can't believe I wasted my life on this low budget crap, you know? Because that happens a lot. We've all worked on really bad movies, and you're embarrassed to tell people. So like, can I make a movie that doesn't embarrass my team, that they're proud of, that they go, look, I'm glad I did that movie? And I think we succeeded. And last is like, can I make my favorite movie? Right? Because oftentimes we set out to do this project, and at the end of the day, we hate what we made. You know, we didn't shoot it the way we wanted, or we thought we got this actor because we thought they would help us, even though we hate them. You know, like all those things. Like, did I say the exact story I wanted to tell? Did I tell my family's story the way that I want it to be told? You know, and I think we succeeded at that too. So. But I think, to your question, like, what would I wish I knew before? I think I wish I knew that I could do this, you know, because I think I would have taken my time a little bit on set, you know, because we were going so fast. And look, again, it was COVID. It was hard. You know, we were very limited. But there's like, sometimes I'm like, man, I wish we just like slowed down and like, we could have really attacked the scene maybe, you know, a couple different ways, you know, or like, oh, like I'm always like, oh, I wrote this pickup. Oh, I wrote a funnier line later. But because we were just trying to get through it, we didn't do as many, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I think knowing what I know now, I think I would have gone in a little more confident and been able to be like, okay, guys, today's a long day, but it's going to be worth it. As opposed to like, hey, how do we get through this day? Like, just really like, yeah.
Yeah. So I think I've just done my 8th feature.
Whoa.
And I'm still doing that. And every time I say I'm going to take my time, and so if you manage it, congratulations. But I always, beginning when I finish a film, I'm like, next time I'm going to be on set and I'm going to kind of not do what you're saying. Where you're just like, I've got to get through today. I've got to get my shots. I've got to do this, do that. Never managed to conquer it. So if you find out the secret sauce for that, I would be. I want it.
But to be fair too, like I will say, some of my favorite moments of the scene was because we were just trying to get through it.
Yeah.
Some of these like we had, I like to call it's a walkie-talkie, right? It's like two people meet, they spend the day walking around, talking, getting to know each other, talking about life and their struggles and a whole bunch of topics that I wanted to talk about. And so much of it, I mean, I think 90% of it was on a Steadicam. I have one of my best friends, Nate Cornett's my cinematographer, and funny enough, like the week before, he was like, "Hey, I just bought a Steadicam. Should we shoot it on that?" And I was like, "Yes, please." So that was great. But yeah, some of the things of like, how do we get through this scene fast? It's like, okay, let's try one long take of it. Was really what ended up being, I think, the best parts of the film. Some of my favorite things were like, what if we just kept the camera rolling? We just shot it a couple long ways and then we can edit it to make it work, where I think that kept the energy going of the film, and that kept that like whimsical, like this is a day in the lifestyle, where maybe if I had too much time and I was like, let's make sure we light this perfectly, make sure we do this angle, maybe we would have lost some of the energy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think actually another thing would be like just asking for favors, like you'd be surprised how many, and maybe this is just Los Angeles because everyone's an actor here. You'd be surprised how many people will say yes to you. Especially for like, our film had a lot of like, characters that would show up for like one scene. It's the couple, they go around and there's, at the coffee shop, there's a funny person that they meet, that sends them along the way. And it was like, you can get like, my friend Mary Holland said yes, and I was worried she would be too busy because, she shoots all these other TV shows and she's the funniest person alive. But it was like, hey, I need you for like 2 hours and it's here and I'm paying you minimum, like this is an embarrassing ask, but they're like, yeah, I'm free that day. Let's do it. Like, I love the script. Let's go. Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay. Maybe I should just ask for those favors. Maybe I should just walk up to the coffee shop. And that's what we did. Walked up to the coffee shop and said, hey, do you guys ever rent this place out? And they were like, oh, the owner's right outside. Go ask him. And you give your speech and you do it. So I think being brave, having that going for you. And hopefully on the second round, it'll be easier. Also, too, in the second round, I have something to point to. When you're just like a nobody, a lot of times your actors will love it and be like, yeah, I'm down. But you got to convince their management to take a risk on a nobody and block their time away so that they can't go audition for a bigger role. You know what I mean? Like it's all a big mess. But I think if you're good, then feel confident in your abilities and try to make really good art.